Look forward to it.
Okay. All right, you guys. The topic for tonight is finding your voice. So that's what we're going to talk about. But before I dive in to what I've prepared for us to discuss tonight, I promised you guys that I would get back to you first and tell you before anybody else when the book was going to officially launch. So this is me telling you that um, it's going to launch this Thursday on Amazon. So I'm going to send a note to all of you. I'll probably use our group text. What we're going to be doing, and I would really appreciate everyone's help with this, is between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. We're going to be doing a bestseller push on Amazon. And if everybody could buy the Kindle version, I think it's going to be 99 cents. That'll help push the book to the top of the bestseller list. And then it gives us like more accolades, and it would mean a lot to me if you guys could help. So, and then if you wanted, to order real copies for your friends later or something, then that's totally fine. But it's just the Kindle version that'll count towards the bestseller list that we're going for on Thursday morning. So expect a really early morning Thursday text from me with a link. So
Rachel, can I touch on that real quick? Yeah, well, I'm gonna. So basically, guys, this is one of those inside track pieces of information that we learned through the publisher on how to get on the bestseller list, and it's by doing a concentrated push during a period of the day, so that your numbers go high and then you achieve that status. So first of all, as she requested, please help her. Rachel, I'll buy two. Actually, I'll get two people to buy them, right? But the point of just interrupting was these are those types of things where we say we paid the dummy tax, you don't have to. There's lots of little tips and tricks in marketing and building your brand and having a larger presence in the marketplace. And this is one of those little tips and tricks that most people don't understand how it works. So I'm glad you brought it up, and I'm sure everybody's happy to help you. But that's where the extended value comes from, is just having inside track. So thanks for that, and congratulations. Look forward to getting the text.
Yes, thank you. And you're right. Like, this is one of those things that people don't tell you. So when you guys someday launch your book, we'll do the same to support you. We'll pick a date and a time. We found that this early morning time, basically a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Thursday midweek, is the day, one of those days you want to pick to do it. So the goal is just to get at least 15 people to buy it. And then if we achieve that, then that pretty much assures that I'll make the list in at least one of the categories that we're going for. So this is what it looks like. You guys will see it in the link when I send it out. And it's appropriate tonight that we're talking about finding your voice, because that was something that I think I can talk about in relation to the book a lot. I know Sam already has a copy, and she's reading it. She put it in the chat to everybody tonight already. And it was tough for me. Because I wear so many different hats, and I think I'm probably going to be a little bit more personal tonight than sometimes I'm a lot of like all business, and I'm a lot of like all marketing talk, all business. But there's been a lot going on recently. I've got my business self, and I've got my mom self, and I kind of wear different hats with the different businesses that I am a part of. And when I had to sit down, when I wanted to sit down to write the book, I was like, okay, well, what voice am I going to use? What tone am I going to use? All right, I'm going to talk about my divorce. Well, am I going to talk about it like I'm bitter and angry and mad, and I'm going to really give my ex-husband the beating, through the book with my words that he deserves? Like, am I really going to do that? Or do I want to like try to rise above and like, I'm going to put something down that's going to be out there forever, right? Like, how do I want my voice to be remembered? Because this is something that, will live on beyond me, and my kids or my grandkids could pick it up someday. So what did I want my voice to be and the tone to be? And I spent a lot of time working with the publisher on this. And honestly, the way that Mike, the publisher that I worked with, the way he does this for you, if you guys ever write a book, is you have 2 meetings with him, and he asks you to put like an outline together of, let's say, 10 points that you really want to make. And those 10 points become your 10 chapters. And then you have 10 stories, one for each chapter. Now, of course, ebbs and flows from there, and I ended up with more chapters than that. It's not an exact science. I think I ended up with 18 chapters. So, but that's where we started, right? And so he did 2 separate 4-hour Zoom interviews, or 2 hours each, 4 hours total. And I shared with him like 80 pages of writing that I had been working on. And then he had like his editing team work on it. And what came back was like a hodgepodge combination of his opinion and the ghostwriter and my writing and how it all kind of worked together. And I was like, oh, this is not right. My voice was too fearful. My voice was too meek, too timid. It wasn't right. And so anyways, I'm telling you all this because it's a backdrop for where I'm going to go tonight with the conversation about finding your voice. So, all right. So you want to find your voice in your personal and your professional lives. So that makes sense, right? And they're not always the same, although they are connected. So the way I like to think about it is your personal voice is often the way you're going to express like your thoughts or your emotions or your feelings, and it's like your self-expression within your family and within your friends and the role that you play there. Your professional voice on the other side of things, it could be like your work voice, right? Or it could be your voice as an employee, right? Like how are you going to carry yourself amongst other employees? Or it could be like your leadership voice. Like how do you want to be talked about? Is like maybe you're writing a blog. Is it going to be your authority and your credibility? Like are you going to be an expert voice, right? Or are you public speaking, and like what's your tone and your voice going to be there? So you really need to think about like how that works, and you want to understand yourself well enough to be able to differentiate between your personal voice and your professional voice and how they might overlap. So that being said, the first thing that I would recommend to anybody who's trying to figure out their voice is a little bit of self-reflection. And while you're doing that, and you guys know that you've heard me talk about finding your brand, right? Your personal brand. And I think that your voice is very close to your personal brand, because you still have to go through that exercise of figuring out your values and an examination of your beliefs and your principles and your convictions that guide your decisions and shape your views, and figuring out what really matters to you. So that goes into developing your voice as well. You got to have a certain amount of self-awareness in order to go through this process, to recognize your unique voice, and assess your strengths or possibly your weaknesses as objectively as you can. So that will help you figure out your communication style. You also need to have a clear understanding of what your passions and your interests are, right? Maybe you know what your hobbies are and the things that you like to engage in. So that way you can be the most authentic and genuine and transparent with people, because that's where you really connect with people in the most soulful, meaningful way. So the other thing in this kind of bucket of understanding yourself and understanding your voice is to know that it's a continuous journey that will evolve over time. Just as marketing trends evolve and change over time, your personal brand and your voice is a living, breathing part of who you are that's not going to ever be static, because you're going to continue to grow and evolve both personally and professionally. So this journey of your voice is going to be an ongoing thing that you should evaluate and look at. Every year would be amazing, but at least every few years. And we'll talk about that kind of near the end of it. So, all right. So the next section we're going to go into is talking about overcoming barriers for finding your voice. You could have barriers to your voice from internal or external factors, right? In order to communicate authentically. So let's look at one of those barriers could be fear of judgment, right? So you could, and this I think is easily seen in my daughter. She's 13, and she's at that age where the opinion of her friends matters a lot, right? You kind of ask her like if she likes something, and you can tell she's thinking, well, I don't know, I wonder what my friends would think about this, or like that peer judgment, where she hasn't really identified like her own strong foundation yet. But that happens to adults too, right? Like, you want to be accepted, we want to be a part of our community. So you could have fear of judgment, that maybe your voice is different than the people around you. And maybe you need to make new friends. Maybe you need to find new groups, or maybe you're swimming in the right pond with the right people, and that's wonderful. And that might not be an issue, but it is something to mention. So, another barrier to finding your voice could be self-doubt. And this could show itself in multiple ways. People talk about the imposter syndrome. That's a form of self-doubt. Negative self-talk is a way of self-doubt. Or on the flip side, it could be positive self-talk, right? To give yourself more affirmations and encouragement that you can do things. I'm just going to keep using the book as a relevant example this week, but I think for me, like, I definitely, the first time I started a business, or I sat down to write my first book, I had self-doubt.
Recording in progress.
Oh, okay. Anyways, recording in progress. Great. Anyways, but in order to like combat self-doubt, think about setting small goals for yourself. You can start to build confidence gradually by hitting small milestones, or seeking support from mentors or coaches or friends who can provide guidance and reassurance to you as you're on this path of finding your voice and overcoming self-doubt. So there's that one. And then still within the overcoming barriers is comparison to others. So another barrier could be that you're comparing yourself to your peer group or to other people. This happens a lot on social media, where you look at other people and maybe you're judging yourself, or you're thinking that their life looks one way when in fact it may or may not really be true, right? So you want to overcome barriers that you might feel to comparing yourself to others or trying to emulate others rather than expressing your authentic self. So that's really important. And then social and cultural influences are also a barrier. Sometimes there could be a cultural or background influence on your perspective. So it's important that you think critically when you're going to be using your voice and you're going to be standing by your voice and your opinion, and make sure that you have thought critically about how you really feel. And so that you've got diverse perspectives, that you can support your points, and shape your beliefs and values and communication style about ways that are authentic to you. So anyways, that is the first section on overcoming barriers. And just like I said, building an authentic brand voice is going to take time, and it's going to evolve, and overcoming barriers is an ongoing process that's going to evolve over time as well. So as long as you're on this commitment to continual self-discovery and self-awareness and resilience, then I think you'll be on the right path to avoid, getting held up in that section. So the three other main sections we're going to talk about tonight. So the next one is developing your voice. And I think this is probably where everybody's going to want to be taking notes on. So developing your unique voice, as I've just said, it's a multifaceted journey. You've got to, hone your communication skills and storytelling abilities, build your confidence, and find your niche. So while you're doing that, think about the verbal and nonverbal ways that you are choosing to communicate. Now, this is, I think, easily highlighted when you're talking about going in person, but it could also be, virtually. So let's say you want to be memorable and you want your voice to be heard, and you're going to networking events and it's a sea of people and they all look and sound kind of the same, right? And you want to stand out. So there was a time when I used to go to a lot of events and I would always wear a white suit blazer, and I felt like I wanted to be known for that. I went through another phase where I wore a red hat a lot of the times. It was like a Kate Spade kind of sassy hat. It was the winter. I was going through a phase. But like I said, it evolved over time. That wouldn't be authentic to me anymore. But I also knew a gal one time. She wanted to be known as being very intellectual, and she wore glasses. And she actually didn't even need glasses. She told me later. She just thought that it made her look more sophisticated and older, so she wore them. That was part of her nonverbal communication to support her voice or her brand. So just kind of have to think about, you know, what's the verbal and nonverbal things that you're communicating about your voice. And then the other thing is storytelling. And this is a really powerful tool for expressing your unique voice and connecting with others. If you want to be known for, let's say you decide you want to be known for being hardworking. So you need to come up with a personal experience story that highlights an example of you being a hardworking person. And you need to make that a part of your bio that you use when you're talking to people repeatedly. Remember, your voice and your brand, these are things that you want to be consistent with. You want people to be able to say these stories and think of these stories when they are thinking about you because they've heard it so many times, right? So this helps them also have an emotional connection to you. So if it's a story about being hardworking, maybe you can integrate in some emotional like connectivity with your audience so that they can remember it better, and then maybe they tell it even on your behalf, which would be the greatest success compliment, right? So you are developing your voice not only for yourself, but knowing that other people are going to think of you that way too. So there's lots of examples we could say about that. Like you could be using your voice to because you want to be known for a certain political party, or you want to be known as a certain type of parent, or any of these different things. But as you're going through the first step of finding your voice, you're identifying these values, you're identifying the things you want to be known for, and then you can evolve into how you're going to develop this. And one of those things is by having the nonverbal communication props or tools that you're going to use, and then your personal experiences and your stories that are going to connect people and have an emotional connection with you. So, all right. That all being said, I think it's important to recognize that having a strong personal voice or a professional voice requires a certain amount of confidence. Because you're going to be talking about yourself, and you need to do it with a voice of authority and authenticity. You can't be unsure about who you are if you're going to be really owning your voice. So make sure that you are practicing it, and you can practice it in front of the mirror telling your story. You can practice it in non-threatening, small group environments or with friends, kind of practice. And then get better and better at it, because the more you repeat it and the more consistent you are, then the better it will be and the better it'll come across. So, and as you're doing this, set small goals for yourself. Say, okay, I'm gonna tell this story 3 times this week, and I'm gonna see how it goes and see what the reaction is, and is it what you were hoping it would be, right? So, give yourself some opportunities to practice. The other thing about it is, while you're developing your voice, you want to have a niche that's special for you, right? Because you're special and unique and you're unlike anybody else. So what is it about your voice or your story that's going to help you stand apart from the other people in your community or in your tribe, right? So but you also don't want to alienate them. You want to highlight the fact that you're the part of this community. I mean, as humans, we're all very interested in, being a part of our community and our society. So, but find your niche in a way that you can stand out and be special and unique. All right, the next bucket, the expression of your voice in different contexts. So we're gonna have a couple points on how it's important to the expression of your voice in different contexts. So your voice will come across in, obviously, this seems like a given, but your personal life, right? It's going to play a crucial role in building and nurturing relationships, as well as aligning with your core values. So I talk about that in the book a lot. I talk about how you have to teach people how you want them to treat you. You find yourself Here's an example I think everyone can relate to is whether you are an only child or you have siblings, we all sort of play a role in our family, right? Like you play the role of the oldest child who's, I'm just going to use the textbook cliche is like they're super hyper organized and overachieving. And you've got the bratty younger sibling, right? And that might not be who they are in everyday life, but when you get the family together, those are the roles that they kind of slip back into. But with your voice and the effort that you're making to have a conscious voice, you can choose to kind of change that. You can choose to, adjust the role that you're playing in your personal life, in those relationships with your family and those closest to you. So I thought that was something that I personally want to work on, because I know that I in my family we often fall back into those old roles. So now in your professional life, how are you going to express your voice in different contexts? All right, well, you can express it in like if you're in the office, obviously, like workplace communication, right? Like the way you're talking about people when you're in person, the way you're talking with people on your social media, or not social, yeah, social, and on, I was going to say virtual in these types of meetings. Um, and then also how you're talking with the leadership, or how you're talking with the up and coming leaders in the organization. So think about every communication touch point needs to be conscious and is really playing into the broader goal of having a conscious brand voice for yourself. So just kind of keep that in mind. Every touch point, every interaction in your personal and professional life counts for supporting your voice. Okay. The power of authenticity is our next bucket of things that we're going to talk about. So the power of authenticity. So when you're authentic with people, you're building trust and you're building credibility. And these are, the cornerstones of relationships. You want to be transparent and consistent. I think these are sometimes no brainers, but I wanted to say them out loud because it's worth stating that you got to have the trust, credibility, transparency, and consistency, though, that people will rely on you. So keep that in mind. And then as you continue to communicate your voice, you're going to find that you're inspiring and influencing others, right? People are going to be drawn to you as an authentic individual who's expressing your passions and values and beliefs. And this connection can lead to greater enthusiasm, can lead to shared goals, can open other doors. It can lead to people looking to you as a role model, as an effective leader. And authentic and effective leaders often have a more significant impact on their teams and organizations because they do inspire that trust and motivate others to follow their visions. So, all of these pieces work together to not only help you find your voice, but help you use your voice to achieve your goals. And sometimes while you're doing this, you have to embrace vulnerability. You have to put yourself out there, and that will help make that human connection with others. It'll help you personally grow, and it'll show that you're able to be empathetic. And vulnerability does cultivate empathy, as it allows you to understand and relate to the vulnerabilities of others. So that is another tool, not to be mistaken with you're not trying to like manipulate people, but you're definitely trying to have a human connection, and a little bit of vulnerability sometimes goes a long way. And I think on these calls, we have really embraced that. And the best calls are the ones when people do share and they are vulnerable. So, sometimes it's hard for me personally to do that, but I think that I'm on the journey to do more of it, and the book was a big step for me of putting things out there in a vulnerable way. So, all right, the next and the last chunk of this is maintaining and evolving your voice. So, one of the critical aspects of personal and professional growth is evolving your brand and your voice. It can't be static. It should evolve over time to reflect your changing circumstances, your changing values, your changing goals. You know, we are all lifelong learners. That's one of the reasons we're all part of the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, right? We're continuously seeking new knowledge and experiences and perspectives. So it keeps us relevant and adaptable. And, you know, the more we read books and we research and we develop our skills and we take time to network with other people and learn from them, it's going to help us, you know, continue to evolve. And that will indeed change our voice over time. So as we're adapting to changing circumstances and this dynamic life that we're all sharing, our voice should adapt to these changing circumstances too. This also shows that you're flexible, shows that you're resilient. It might even show that you're a problem solver, because maybe you're navigating a changing circumstance and you know you're maintaining your voice's authenticity through this trying and troubling time. So there's a lot to be said for how you choose to evolve your voice over time. And as you're doing this, sometimes you need to step back and reassess your goals. What are your long-term goals? Or have you had a value change? You know, and that maybe that's time to step back and say, all right, I'm going to go through a little more self-reflection, or I need to reset my goals for the year ahead, or 5 years ahead, or 10 years ahead. And then maybe do a gut check on your values and say, have these changed, or has this stayed the same, or what have I learned from this, or how have I grown from this? So really, you know, finding your voice, communicating your voice, maintaining and evolving your voice over time is like I said, it's a living, breathing, you know, part of who you are. And it's a part of your brand. And I know I can't help but say that, because I'm such a powerful advocate for personal branding. I really believe in it, especially this day and age. As soon as everybody started getting on social media and posting, I was like, oh my God, people are not thinking about themselves as a brand, but they really, really need to, right? So I think it's just one of those things that I will forever talk to you guys about. And anytime you ever want to go deeper into talking about your personal brand and you know how it generates influence, and you know, and we could go through an exercise. I think I even have an exercise in the book on how to start developing your personal brand. I tried, by the way, in the book to make the marketing advice evergreen. I tried to avoid talking about trends or you know specific executional tactics, and I really tried to stick with more strategic advice so that it would be more long lasting and it would be relevant for a lot longer, because I feel like the marketing and the branding and the you know the way that we're communicating with each other is changing so rapidly right now. So anyways, I just wanted to mention that to you guys as well. And that's pretty much the gist of what I want to talk about tonight. And at this point, I'm going to open it up to who? Jim, Rod, you guys want to chime in? Anybody else? What do you got?
I'll chime in since, and by the way, if you have questions for Rachel, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll cut it short, but I've got several things to talk about on this topic, and I'm sure Rod does. He's got his hand raised. First of all, you started with the fear of judgment, you know, when you start identifying your voice. And it's interesting because I had the opportunity this last 4.5 days to go on a speaking tour with not only elected officials, but people running for office. And there was over 12 people that spoke at a half a dozen events in a number of different cities. And regardless of their stature and status in their work life, their personal life, each and every one of them was fearful of being judged. You know, they all got off stage, and because we spent a lot of time together, eventually it comes around where they say, "Well, what'd you think? How did I do?" And so I just want to remind everybody that we all have that in us to fear the judgment, and I want to encourage you to not have that fear, because as I watched each person speak, I thought, wow, they're all doing a wonderful job. And the audience felt the same. And their message resonated. and everybody was respectful, and they were happy to hear the stories and what they were passionate about. There was no judgment. And I think we put judgment in our own minds that we're being judged as we're doing things. That's just not really how it is. And so as the speakers learned over a period of days how to adjust their speeches and get in the groove of things, by last night, when last night came around, which was our last night after 7 stops, everybody was polished and they weren't as worried about the judgment because they got into routine. So I think that's to say, as you look to find your voice and put out in public who you are, don't be fearful of being judged, but the sooner you do it, the faster you can get through that curveball of feeling like, hey, everybody's looking at me, and get into the actual action of what you're trying to do, and that's find your voice. And I just wanted to remind everybody how important it is to have a voice, especially from a marketing or business perspective or a growing perspective. Rachel touched on it, and I'm going to touch on it from my own point of view. Rachel was up here over 3 years ago. And we were doing some branding work for my own business, and she was taking photos, and she had another person with her taking photos. And she's like, "Where's your cowboy hat? I see you in your cowboy hat on Instagram." So she really encouraged me to wear that. And although I've been wearing a cowboy hat since I was like 5 years old, off and on throughout my life, depending on the scenario. Obviously, in my city life, it wasn't a great fit. But when I got here, I really felt like that was my personal branding and comfort level. And I was just proud to be that person. But when Rachel came and she pulled out the camera, I didn't have it on. And she said, "You got to wear that." And so she did a great photo shoot that we used for business that resonated for a couple of years, but really set who my brand was and what I represented as a dad, as a business person, and my real authentic self. And compliments to Rachel that she encouraged me to do that, as well as wearing my hat in politics, because as I toured all these cities this last week, and we're talking 6 hours away from my hometown, people recognized me because of that hat, because they'd met me before in that hat, because it's a dying breed, unfortunately, in the state of Montana, and I think that the world needs more cowboys. But because of the branding that she encouraged me to have, that voice, that authentic Jim, it's stuck with people now. So it was great advice for me at the time, and it still resonates and lives and works for me. So Rachel, thanks for that. Other ways that your voice is important to find, and I listed out a few. Your logo. If you know what your voice is and who you are, you can convey to an artist, or if you're doing your logo yourself, what your voice is and what that means. And your logo will capture that authentic meaning of what you're trying to convey. Your mission statement should have your voice in it and who you are. Your speeches should have your voice in it and who you are. What customers say about you, if you've done a good job of conveying your voice, what customers say about you when you're not there, your voice should resonate in those conversations, right? The stickiness of who you are and your brand comes from your voice, especially if you're authentic, and your voice gives you an authentic opportunity to convey that. So, and then finally, as Rachel suggested, you are a brand. In this day and age, you are a brand, believe it or not, whether you want to or not. How you convey your voice to the public becomes your brand. And it's really important, if you care about your business and what you believe in, is that you convey that authentic self in your brand and in your voice. So those are my comments. Rachel, I think I saw a whole bunch of comments coming through. So go to whoever you want, and I'll unmute them.
Well, I think, Rod, did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, go to Rod, then we'll hit Riley.
Yeah.
All right. I lowered my hand because Jim referenced it. I didn't want it to be up there in everyone's face. Rachel, thank you so much. I have to say, this is a timely topic in more ways than you could imagine. I was actually struggling with my voice today, and I'd forgotten that this was the topic for tonight. And I'm trying to, I'm in a spot with my comeback, right? With my health. I've kind of gone mostly silent on social media and stuff. And I had a little thing going there with my 5 o'clock somewhere, my spin on 5 o'clock somewhere. And I kind of am looking to relaunch myself without losing my voice, right? And I was reminded just while you were talking, one of the, when I graduated from college, I wanted to get a reference letter from a college professor that I held in high esteem. And he had known me for 3 years of my college career. And one of the things he wrote in my reference letter was that Rod is one of those people who can sit down and get along with anyone from rednecks to college professors. And I thought about that. I haven't thought about that for 40 years until tonight. And what is that? It was my voice, because my voice was the same. It's authentic. And it doesn't change whether I'm talking to a redneck, a cowboy, someone in a bar, someone behind a bar, or a barrister. My voice is the same. And so what do I want to do different? It's not about being accepted. It's not about changing who I am, but about how I want others to perceive me. And that's not going to change. What is changing for me is my message. That's the only thing I want to change, is my message. But my voice is going to be the same. And you've hammered it home for me tonight that I just need to be consistent with my voice and who I am. And I can go ahead and change my message, but my voice doesn't change. So I really appreciate it. And the other thing that you had mentioned, I put a note here, and I don't know if you came up with this on your own, but it's one thing I love about this group, the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. You said mutually evolve. When we're in here and we're looking at what we're doing, and we have a lesson and we have something we can hang our hat on and talk about, we mutually evolve. And that's been one of the greatest strengths of doing this, is it changes me. Every Monday night, I am changed. And it's nice to sit back and get changed with someone else leading a topic. And you did a great job, Rachel. So I appreciate that. And as my messaging changes, I trust that my voice won't, because of this. So that's all I want to say. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And good luck on the book. I'm going to have to buy another copy now.
You guys are the best. Thank you. That's so nice. Oh, there was a question about there being an audiobook, and yes, there will be an audiobook. And yes, we've been talking about AI for that. And I've been told that there's an AI that can read it in my voice if I give it enough voice sample. And so I'm going to look at that and consider it. But yeah, I want the inflection to be authentic and genuine, because I think that's important to my voice and to my brand. So if the AI rocks, fantastic. Then I just save myself, a lot of time. But if not, then I'm going to take that time to read it. So I'll let you know how that goes. I think that Riley had her hand up, I think.
Yeah, I did. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So with figuring out what your personal brand is, I feel like sometimes we're too close, we're too close to ourselves to like really see what is the brand that we're putting out there. And I one time had a teacher that had us do this practice, and it wasn't geared towards our branding, but I mean, ultimately that's kind of what it was. She had us go to like 10 different people, and also consider your source, going to people that we actually respected their opinions and stuff, and had us ask like a really pointed question of when it was something like, when I walk into the room, what do I bring into a room? And it was a really sweet activity, but it gave people the idea of what are we putting out there. And I was just curious, Rachel, if you have any tips or tricks of that sort of trying to establish or figure out what is the brand I'm putting out there, because I just feel like sometimes we're just too close to really see how other people see us.
I love that. And It's a great question, because you might think that you're communicating one thing and you find out that that is absolutely not the case. So do you have a tribe of girlfriends that are like your close esteemed ladies by chance?
Yeah, I've got some close girlfriends, I guess. Yeah.
So like I've got a couple different groups, but there's some of us who work together, and we did this thing one time where it was like we asked each other, like, what are the top 3 things that you would say if you're going to introduce this person to somebody else? We like made it kind of a fun exercise. And then it was really, and then we had to like share them, right? And see if it was what the other person, like, if they liked it, if they thought that was good. I mean, they were all complimentary, right? Like nobody was trying to put each other down. They were nice, but they may or may not have been the type of voice that that person wanted to be known for. So it was good to get some feedback, and it's nice to ask people like, well, how would you introduce them? Or what are 3 things that you know about them? Or what's one story you would tell about this person? So when I used to work in an office, we would this thing on Friday morning where we'd get together and we'd we'd have avocado toast, and we would do these types of exercises. Now I don't have that. We do a power hour on Friday mornings on Zoom, because I've got girls that work all over the country. But we could even do that with this group one time. That could be a fun exercise, and maybe I could work that into the next time I'm teaching. We could do a personal voice or brand exercise, and I could send everybody like an assignment in advance, and then we have to share it or something. It could be fun.
It could be fun.
Yeah.
I like those ideas. I like that idea of like, how would you introduce like each other? I think that's a fun activity.
Yeah. So I'll put some thought into how I would architect that for this group, considering some of us know each other better than others. So there could be a way that we, everybody has to share, I don't know, something in advance that represents them or their brand or their voice, and then we can, all be at least on like level playing fields. Yes, and as per the comments, Moses would be included. Yes, that's or optional. Optional. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions? I'm gonna text everybody super early morning on Thursday, so just keep an eye out for that. Oh, Fred has his hand up. Go ahead, Fred.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So, anyways, I just wanted to interject and kind of a question. And trying to find your voice, we launched podcast in February. I'm trying to find my voice. We're trying to find our voice for the podcast. And even though you're on a microphone, you still got to kind of learn how to project yourself and how you want to communicate. But what was interesting to me is that we've got different types of feedback from different individuals, and we're kind of in a space where there's a lot of people that want to be influential. They want to be influencers online. Everybody's the subject matter expert for life coaches. And I've received so much different feedback, and some of it I could care less. They're like, you got to establish your, I think they're gimmicks. They're kind of like, you got to have your name, the muscle or red suit, or you're the whatever. And to me, it's like, I'm just going to be authentic Fred. But I just wanted to share on there. It's kind of interesting starting doing it in February, is that just doing the reps like anything else. I don't think you're not necessarily going to go out and define who you are until you start doing the reps. It kind of almost finds you. And now that we're 30 episodes in, it's starting to feel like it's starting to kind of make sense, and we could project differently. We're starting to gather our thoughts and collaborate information a little bit more calculated. But I just wanted to share because I know it was difficult, and I'm taking everybody's information, for what it's worth. But I don't want to be a gimmick guy. I'm not going to be Fast Freddy, it's not me, so I'm just going to be authentic Fred. And then the other thing I wanted to share too is that there's different personalities. Coming into the group, I came out of 2 very aggressive groups, and being Warrior, and then we being in the Lion's Den. And this group was pretty mellow. Jim's got a very mellow, even tone. Rod, Rachel popped in. But the thing I gotta share is that those personalities started to grow. Especially Rod, very deep, a lot of wisdom. I really appreciate the foresight that he shares. So, while everybody's trying to come up with this perfect idea of, how you want to communicate and what your brand identity is going to be, I think that kind of relates to music. Not every music's going to resonate with every single person on this planet, but you're going to find your tribe by being authentic and them kind of finding you to be your best authentic self and the most captivating in that space. So that's kind of how this group's been for me. I enjoyed a lot, and I really enjoyed the fact that when I first came in, I thought it was kind of mellow, like I don't know, kind of light. But then as we started getting deeper and deeper into the conversations, there started to be more and more connection. You learn more about people, the vulnerability that comes with it, and I don't know. I just think it has a lot of value, but it grew organically as opposed to just punching you in the face and we're going to get shit done and being on fire and we're going to light the world on fire, and then we see some of these people rise and we're seeing some of them fall now because they're losing their authenticity because they can't maintain it for a long period of time. So I think it's best to just be, in my personal opinion, and I appreciate everything you said tonight because I think there's a lot of value in that, but being your personal authentic self and being true to that is going to be your best long-term solution, in my opinion, than trying to come up with something that you're not, if you will.
I love what you said with that, Fred, and I chuckle when you say about the hardcore groups like the Lions Den or Arte or those guys, and there's a time and a place for it, and I love getting all like rah fired up, but like that's not me. But I know that in those guys sometimes they're playing into that brand of what they've created, right? I mean, if Andy Frisella showed up and didn't yell at everybody, I'd be like, oh, what's wrong with him? Like, what? That's weird. That's strange. And the other thing today in response is people go through their lives and they forget that they have to redefine who they are. If you'll see it a lot with kids that play sports. Let's say like a kid grew up and they were always like, hi, I'm Joe, I'm the football player, right? And then like they stop playing football and then they don't know who they are or who to identify with. Or
they don't evolve, right?
Yes, or you see with like parents who get like moms get really into like I'm Susie and I'm a mom, and then their kids grow up and they go to college and she's like, oh my God, like, who am I? I forgot. Like, I don't know. So the fact that we're talking about this proactively and that we're aligning ourselves with more than just one thing. We're more than just our job. We're more than just our role in our family. It's a holistic approach, and I think that that's important. And I wish more people would do that so that they don't have those crisis moments later. And I love the idea of you being the wisdom guy. I think there's something also with you're always in the hat. Like, like and you're like casual wisdom. Maybe I don't know. They're trying to,
Yeah. I always call it like I said, and I can appreciate authenticity. I think that is one of my core values is align myself with people that are true, authentic, and consistent. So I was I went headfirst into this coaching thing because at the time when I first got into the coaching, I did it really bad. So that season of my life there was a lot of turmoil, and the only thing that made sense to me, and I kind of need that abrasive, punch you in the face, and kind of wake you up and get you out of the place you're at now. But now I've been in it, it kind of ebbs and flows. You see where it's good, then you kind of see behind the curtain, and it's not what it's cracked up to be. So, but I think that like anything else, like I said earlier, doing the reps and then trying to find just that true, authentic approach or perspective. And like you said, we all have to grow and evolve. And doing the podcast 30 episodes in, it's nowhere near what Jim has, but it's such a personal growth because if you're going to be true to yourself and you're going to project something out there, you have to start to be the person that you're talking about on your shows or what you're preaching. And so it's a weekly reminder, say, hey, am I falling in line with what I'm claiming is my alignment, my core values? And but I see that consistency throughout the group here. and I really appreciate it. But that's the thing is I like to, recognize people for where their strengths are, and not everybody is going to be everybody's cup of tea. So, everybody's going to connect with people differently. And I think that's what's beautiful about the group. There's a good dynamic inside of this group. So that's my rant for the evening.
Bruce, what's up?
Two things. I'd like to hear some more, and this may not be the time for it, but about branding and how that can help. I'm still sort of new to that, and I'm not real clear on it. So at some point, if you could touch base on that, that would be beneficial. And the other question I had was the Fathom note-taking system you're using. Is there anything else it can do for me? Or what does that system do? Because I'm sort of not terribly technological. I fix computers with a hammer permanently, which is better than gunfire, but whatever.
Okay, so branding, I would be happy to do another session on branding, like not today, but
Right.
another one, because there's so much that we can talk about. So we can definitely come back to that, and like send me a note, by the way, like on the back end of yes, like in the chat, everybody, like what are things related to branding that you would like to cover, and we'll try to work it into the agendas. And then Fathom, so I will put a link in the chat to everybody. Here's an invitation to Fathom. They're currently having a wait list, but if you use my invite, it'll put you to the front of the list. It's a note taker, which I really like. And just in case you want to go back and watch things, it also transcribes and it highlights certain areas that you've made a good point that you might want to use as a clip. So I like that. And then I have another system called Opus Clips. Opus Clips is an AI tool where you can upload long form video, for instance, like this call, and it will use AI to suggest maybe like 12 to 14 1-minute clips that might work well as reels for social media. So
Okay.
put a link to Opus and a link to Fathom. So both of those are AI tools that will hopefully help you guys be more productive.
Thanks.
You're welcome. See, that's my role in our group here. We got the wisdom guy, we got the cowboy guy, we got the marketing person. We all play our roles. Rod.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna take this opportunity to jump in on Bruce right away. I know we can do a whole nother thing on branding, but Bruce, I want to say this. I'll jump in, and because I know your background and I know you and I know your son, so I know you as from the back end as a family man as well. And to me, here's what I see your brand. Okay, this is how I view you. This is just a real quick, these are those top three. What would I say? Old school values, experienced, real world intelligence, tough, fair. And by the way, for those of you who only see Bruce once in a while, funny. When I listen to your podcast, you are funny. You throw some humor in there sometimes that's just so, I want to say redneck, but in a very good, intelligent way. It's like just like sitting in a bar humor, right? And I don't spend a lot of time in bars, so I don't even know what that means. But you have your own brand already. You just need to embrace it and get it out there. Put that to the forefront. It's what I see your strengths are already. I mean, and you're tough, you're fair, you're intelligent, but it's the old school part of it that I really like too. I know your background and I see the relevance and the need for that today. And if you can express that to the world, the value of that to the world, that is your brand. So I just wanted to throw that out there just because why not share? Okay. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
Rachel, I'll wrap us up if you want, if you're done.
Yeah, I think we're ready.
Okay. So great job, by the way. Thank you for that. Fred, real quick, just addressing your comments. Thank you for your honest evaluation of the group, by the way. We're all, Rachel, myself, Rod, we're just going to be who we are. You're not going to get a rah, rah, rah yell at you. That's just not the people we are. But what you will get is an authentic opportunity to work with us, genuine, not blowing smoke, and a willingness to do whatever it takes to help you guys, everybody in this group now and in the future, to excel and achieve success. And I see the comments going back and forth in the chat here. We'll never kick you out because we have a dispute with another member. So, you know, that's just who we are. So thank you for that. Fred or Bruce, I think you should reach out to Rachel. I know that there's some documents in our back end that will help with branding. And I know where you're progressing with your vision for your business. And you absolutely need to brand who you are and take a look at your brand identity as you move forward in you know, reaching out to the types of clients we've talked about. So this is a really important exercise. But to Rod's point, I think you have a wealth of background to put into your brand to become something that people will look at and go, I need this man to teach me, you know, what he's teaching, right? So you probably have it better than most because you have a lot of accolades, a lot of experience, and a lot of depth. It's just having that professionally brought out so that it's on paper and that other people can see that. So anyways, it's funny. I look at every name on here and everybody, I can see their brand of who they are. So if you're not sure, give me a call. I'll help you. I'll help you. So, all right. Well, look, thank you everybody for being here tonight. Hey, just real quick on a political front, and we're not going to go down a political road, but spending time with an elected congressman that's doing a lot in DC, I just want to give you some assurances that we have some wonderful people working for this country, trying to create an environment and an opportunity for us all to love and succeed in the place that we live. So really dig deep into some of these people that are representing us and what they're doing. And I'm just reinvigorated after several days of working with some of our elected officials that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't matter where you sit. I think life will get better, as bad as things seem to be in the news cycle. So anyway, support them wherever you can. So look forward to seeing everybody next week. If you need something, reach out to us, and love to hear from you. So thank you. Good night. Thanks, Rachel.
Bye.